live now. People, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. And today we are going to have a special guest here, a wonderful drummer, a wonderful guy, wonderful, very friendly. I love him. Carl Allen will be here with us in a minute. But today I want to start playing something for you, playing some playback that I did a long time. And so we're going to start with that. When I'm finished, we're going to have Carl Allen here, okay? So uh, let's going to start playing some music because we are alone at home and we have to play a little. Just let me try that. Rachel, tell me if everything is okay. Here's
Edu, we can't hear you talking right now. Can you turn your mic back on?
yes, Rachel. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes. And now the music too, okay? No microphone. I'm my microphone. Okay. Encerre. So now we have the music. So one more minute. I will do that. I can do that. Just one more trying. Okay. Yes, now we have it. so. Ah, que legal. Thank you for listening. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring here for this screen this incredible drummer and one of my biggest influence and people that a guy that influenced a lot of drummers in the world. He has a great career with as a, educator, as a leader, and as a sideman. The great drummer Carl Allen. Carl, are you here?
Hey, how are you? First of all, Edu, that was unbelievable, man. That was incredible.
Oh
And
man.
and it's funny because I'm watching some of the comments
Ah,
and I concur with some things I have never. First of all, not only is the playing incredible, I have never heard an electronic drum set sound that good before. I kept
oh
looking
man.
like no, is that really? No, can't be. Yeah, but that's
Man.
you, man. That's all you.
Oh, thank you. That was my first time playing live in a streaming. Thank you for watching me.
Really?
Wow, I'm so nervous. And
Oh,
you know,
please.
oh, Mr. Carr, I'm clapping my hand for you and people. Please clap your hands for Carl
Oh,
Allen
no,
here.
no. Clapping for
Yeah.
you. Clapping for you.
Oh, oh,
Thank you.
and then, you know, when that pandemic times starts, I live in apartment,
Yeah.
and I was so afraid about get out just to across the street, and my wife and my son here at home we just locked it, and I said I have a studio in the two blocks from here that I play
Yeah.
drums every time, and I said I have to play, and I realized I have to buy one electronic drums to play in the apartment, and my ex-student Gabriel Guilherme, he helped me to find a very good one and to put good sound. I'm in love with this.
Wow. It sounds great. I've never heard an electronic kit sound that good before.
Oh man, thank you,
Yeah. Yeah. But like I
thank
said,
you.
that's you. That's all you.
No, no, no. Hey, Mister, how is the life here? Are you in Brooklyn now? Is that
I'm in
okay?
Brooklyn. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Is
And
everything
it's,
good there?
yeah, it's okay. I mean, the in terms of the virus, the numbers are going down, but of course, people aren't wearing a mask like they should be. But I mean, it's good. I mean, I when this thing first started, I just told myself, I said, how we come through this, a lot of it is going to have to do with our mindset. And I just
Yeah,
made a decision that I'm not going to see this as a pandemic, and I'm going to look at it as a time to reset. And that's what I've been doing, man. I've been using this time, doing a lot of lessons online and working on health stuff. I've been walking a lot and changing my diet and sleeping more and reading more and writing music and I
yeah.
want to be better when it's over. So
Man, it's a very good way to think about that because we have to take care about the things and planning, have
right,
planning to get out one more time
yeah, yeah.
when
It
this
won't
finish.
last forever. So the question is, who will we be when this is over? You know.
Yeah, yeah. And I have a question. You before these times, you used to do online lessons, or you just start to do that when these times?
Well, I mean, I wasn't really doing many online lessons before this because either, I was, going to schools to do master classes or students would come to my home. But
Mm-hmm.
because of everything that's happening, I didn't want people in the house, so I've been doing a lot of lessons online, and it's been really great. I mean, at first, it was a bit challenging getting the technology together and making sure that
Yeah.
the signal was strong and all of that. But now, I've gotten better mics and got interface hooked up and some lights and stuff. So it's still nothing
Yeah.
like being right there where you can see them. But it's been good.
Wow, man. I'm doing the same. I'm doing the same, trying to be more near for the technology, to more comfortable. Because before that, I didn't realize that I can have internet in my studio with my phone, and I was
Oh,
so out of technology. And now I have, and that is something that is very good to connect with you and to connect with this conversation with some student from the other side of the world. That's amazing. That I think that
Well,
that connection is going to stay after that.
yeah. Well, you think about it. I'm in Brooklyn. You're in Brazil.
Yeah,
So it's real time. So I do
yeah,
think if we again thinking about trying to find the positive, this is one positive thing that's come out of this because I can tell you for myself, had this not happened, there are so many things like teaching online I would not have gotten into, and at least not at
hmm
this level. But
yeah,
because we've been forced to make some changes, like I said, you know, if this hadn't happened, I would have just continued to be busy, fortunately, but I would not have had time to start, working out and exercising and walking like I have and changing my diet and sleeping and reading and practice. I mean, I just, and the funny thing about it, I had to learn how to practice all over again. Because you
yeah,
think about it, it's probably same for you. You're busy all the time, so when you're practicing, you're working on music for a gig or for a record date, right?
yeah.
So
So
now when nothing's happening, you got this time. You say, "Well, man, okay, now what do I work on?"
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
back to
yeah.
basics.
It's the same. It's the same.
Yeah,
And you have sometimes I try to make some plans to that in these times that we are traveling a lot and so busy. A lot of things that we want. Me. I wanted to do. I wanted to learn. I wanted to study to practice. I didn't know. I didn't have time. And now I'm trying to remember that. Oh, that is something that I want to
right.
transcribe to understand, and that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Are you
yeah, exactly.
are you are you recording online too?
A little bit. I mean, sometimes people will send me tracks, and I'll record some stuff and send it back to them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I still have to put to put some other things in place to really do it at the right level. So
Yes.
there's a part of me that says I need to do that, and there's another part of me that says, well, I hope the stuff turns around where we're back on the road, before, so I don't have to do that. But I think
Yeah.
this is something that's gonna stick around for a while, like you said. I mean, this is something that's here to stay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's going to stay. You're set to recording to do recordings without across the world to do that. You can do that
Yeah.
at your home in a high level. That is very good.
Now you're doing
Eh,
that in your studio too.
I'm trying. I'm doing with the electronic,
Yeah.
uh, record with the electronics. But there is something that is so hard to do here. That is the bursts. We
Yeah.
can play bursts here. That not
Yeah.
sounding. It can't sound like bursts. I
Right.
have just that.
Yeah.
It's not sounding. And
Right. Right.
and and now I'm trying to do it with microphones in my studio with the drum set.
Yeah.
By the way, we are talking about that. I was watching some video that you have a beautiful playing, wonderful sound, wonderful touch. Is amazing.
Thank you.
A Zildjian, I think it was a Zildjian presentation or Vic Firth. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And and
That
and
was
you
from the
play.
PAS conference. Yeah.
Yes, and you play it with a beautiful drum set, beautiful W1, but that's something that was so new for me. You have a very low snare on the side that
Yeah.
you use as a surdo, as a floor tone,
Yeah.
and man, that sound was amazing. That beautiful sound, and you ever have a beautiful sound, a great touch? Do you have any kind of microphone to put your microphones, to set up your microphones? Do you have some special thing to do that, or you just have this beautiful touch and take the engineers the part of that?
Well, the sound, I have to give credit to those guys. I mean, they really hooked up the sound. But, in terms of those drums were DW drums, and they had made specially for me for that convention. And that floor tom that you're talking about, now I've always called it a snore tom. They call it a
Snort.
ballad snare. Yeah, I call it a snore tom because it's like a snare and a floor tom, right? But what it is
Snort.
essentially is a floor tom with a snare throw off on it,
Yeah.
right? And so,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you one of the things that inspired me to do that, and then I'll get to the question about the mics. You know, one of my first drum heroes was Billy Cobham. And
Okay.
Billy, you know, during the 70s doing all of the fusion stuff. And I'll never forget, and I've told him this story 1,000 times, but he used three snare drums, right?
Wow.
And of course, I've always just loved the sound of snare drums. And so with that setup that you saw there, because I have two floor toms, and the bigger one, the 16, actually has a snare throw off on it. And then I had a 6 by 10 on my far left, and then a 5.5 by 14. So it gives me essentially three snare drum sounds. And I've always just loved the sound of snare
Wow.
drums, you know. And I think part of that goes
Yeah.
back from as a kid being really into drum and bugle corps. I always loved, you know, drum and bugle corps and marching bands and all of that. Just the sound of the snare drum I always loved. But in terms of miking, I use earthwork mics. And the thing is, if I can get away with it, I try to do as little as possible. But generally speaking, for live performances, I will have, if I can, one overhead, but in many cases two, and then one on the mounted tom, one on the floor, and one on the front of the bass drum, and one for the snare that'll go between the snare and the hi-hat. Now, of course, in the studio, I have one on every, you know, on every drum, and
Okay.
two overheads, and then sometimes I'll have a third overhead that's coming from behind me to just kind of pick up, you know, everything. But
Yeah.
I like to if I can not have it too overly mic, but at the same time it's a trust relationship with the engineer too, you
Yeah.
know. And if
Yeah.
I don't like to try to tell them, you know, how to do their job, just like I don't expect them to tell me how to do mine. But if I can have a conversation with them about miking, and it's not for me, it's just about being informed about how they approach it. You know, like I don't put holes in my drums, so I don't put anything inside the bass drum. I don't use any muffling. But I'm always curious to know, you know, how they approach miking the drums, just so I'll have an idea of what to expect.
Great. Great. Man, the sound all the time is great. All the time is great.
Oh,
And for the bass drum, you just put on the front, never on the
yes,
kick drum, never on
right,
the
right.
this head.
I've done a few
I
sessions where I've done it where it's on both sides, but a lot in a big room with big high ceilings, then I tend to just have one on the front.
okay. Great. Great. Hey,
Yeah.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
we have a lot of questions here, but
Oh,
I, I really want to ask you to play a little for us, to play
okay.
something for us.
Okay.
Could you do that?
Sure,
You,
sure. I'm gonna change
the
the
microphones?
camera angle, and
Okay.
it's
Oh,
not necessarily the best, but
that's
you'll
so
be able to see. I'm in my little drum room here at
technological.
home. So okay. apologize for that. Was that?
Man,
I'm
wow,
still trying to figure it out.
man, that was amazing, man. That was amazing. Oh,
Oh,
people,
thank
people,
you.
people, clap your hands, man. Do you know something that was so tricky for us, Brazilian, when we see you guys playing, you playing that jazz style, is
Yeah,
the feathering that you do for us is so hard to understand. And I saw a tip that you give to in the internet, that you're talking about the focus on the height symbols, on the height, that everything that happened here is important, but you keep the focus on the symbol, and that the band always listen that symbol, that's writing people.
yeah.
That is so important, man.
Well, before a lot of jazz drummers, specifically, part of our signature comes from their ride cymbal. I mean, you
Yeah,
can, if you've listened to a lot of records, you can listen to a measure of Philly Joe and know it's Philly Joe. Two beats of Art Blakey, two beats of Tony Williams or Max or whomever, you know, and
yeah,
everything that they do is kind of designed to support that ride cymbal.
yeah.
But see, but you talk about the feathering. The thing that every time I see you play, man, and I remember when we came down to Brazil, man, watching your right hand. I mean, I still have videos from when you came to Juilliard, and I took some videos. And I was still show students. I said, man, watch this guy's right hand. It was just,
Oh,
you know, my shirt is
oh,
always wet because I'm drooling watching you play.
oh, oh, man.
But that
That
right
that
hand of yours, man, is incredible. It's
oh,
crazy.
oh, thank you. I think that is the joy of the music. Every country, every language, every part of the world has a different kind of music, different approach to play, and
Yeah.
that different. That's, something that I love, that of course when I play jazz, I have a different accent as I'm talking with you here with this stranger accent about the language. But the American musicians that I have the great chance to play jazz sometimes never asked me to change the accent. They just say, no, just play with your accent, and let's try to let's see what happens. That is so gentleman kindness,
Yeah.
that and I think that we have to do more of that when you play
Yeah.
Brazilian music. uh, let's see, show me what you think about that, show me what you play as that. We have to grow with this. I have to learn with your vision about that's amazing.
Well,
I
but
love
see,
that changing.
here's to me the similarity between jazz and or traditional jazz, if you will. I don't really, I don't know how to describe some of this stuff, but also Brazilian music. My opinion is that it's all dance music,
Yeah,
you know, and if it's not dancing and if the toes are not tapping, there's a problem, you
yeah.
know.
it's, it's
And
this.
again, I'm not, saying, oh, I don't like this or I don't like that. I try to be open to appreciate everything. But to me, I mean, it's like when I listen to Brazilian music, I mean, when you and Paulo Braga and all those guys came to Juilliard and you guys would play, it was just like a party. And it's kind of like
Yeah,
if I put on Arnett Cobb, more party time. If I put on Free for All, Art Blakey, it's the same thing. If I put
it's
on,
part.
I could put on some old R&B, Parliament
Yeah,
Funkadelic. I could put on James Brown. It's still dancing, you know.
yeah, yeah. It's the same. It's the same that I feel when I see you playing. It's so complex. The band and the music is so complex, but it's dancing. You can dance with that. The swing is there. That is amazing. For
Yeah.
me, that's the and that I texted you first, and I saw. I told you that tip that you did on internet changed my thinking about that, because I always thinking about dancing. I start to play with my father has a ballroom party band. I start to play
Mm.
there to dance, but I never thinking about that with the height symbol, and it was so clear to me. That
Mm.
was very good.
Oh,
Eh,
thank you.
we have a lot of questions here. I think we could say hello to the people that's
Sure,
here.
sure.
Joyce Glasgow is here. Abraço para você. I'm talking em little português agora. Abraço is a very my big regards to you. Joyce, Hanjank, Pinkstone, pretty good. However, there are a lot of watching Mr. Iron was a big deal when I studied in high. Yeah, Pinkstone says you can see that. I hope
Yes, about the
Rachel
advice
put
about
for you.
guitarists and pianists. So, okay, so is that the one or is there a different one? Because I know they put up. There's a lot of things. Says wash hands. Okay. Say
Okay,
you're great. Who's played with the greats? Just listen to the album with Vince and Eric. Okay, well, thank you for that. Let me see. Okay, so I see a question here that says, Mr. Allen, what is the essence of jazz music drumming in your eyes, and where is the music going from here? Well, thank you for the question, and I think I kind of addressed that in terms of what I think the essence of it is. Is it for me, and it's real personal, and but I think it's just everybody's got to feel it. You got to feel the music. It's a language. It's a culture, and I think to be able to, the way I see playing music, it's a conversation. And in order for one to be able to participate in the conversation, you have to understand the language. And so, how do we learn the language? We listen to a lot of records. We play with a lot of people. We go and listen to a lot of people. And I've often said that musicians, jazz musicians, are great jazz musicians are also great thieves. And what I mean by that is that we steal ideas. It's we're not really stealing, we're borrowing. But we listen to records, we listen to other people, and part of what we're charged to do is to digest what it is that people have given us and then try to find a way to represent it our own way. But I think before we get to that point, we have to make sure we spent a lot of time digesting it. But in terms of where the music is going, boy, if you can figure that one out, I think you should be the next president. Because I have no idea where it's going, right? As musicians, one of the things we always think about, and sometimes I think we just have the conversation with ourselves and occasionally with others, especially after you've been around for a while, is the issue of how do you remain relevant, right? So it's we don't think of jazz as being a youth orientated business, but it is because people are always looking for what's new, who's doing what, and so you always have to find a way to make yourself and relevant so that what it is that you do still makes sense to you, whatever time that you're in. So
great. Hey, Mr. Allen, uh,
yes,
you told A. L. Morion answer his question, her question. You told about listening
yes,
and listen a lot, and I want to ask you. I saw that you. I don't remember the year, but you did a not playing in Elvin Jones a kind of tribute,
yes,
the art of Elvin,
yes.
and of course they are a huge influence to me as a musician, and you are a huge influence for this generation. But I'm wondering to know how about your influence as a drummer? Who influenced you
Well,
as a drummer?
so yeah, so that project's called The Art of Elvin, and Art, of course, Art Blakey and Elvin Jones were two of my musical and personal mentors and heroes. And I always say that when you get to a certain level of proficiency in the music, I think you find yourself attached to what we call the musical tree, or maybe the branch, or maybe you're just a leaf. But the point is that there are people that you feel that you identify with. Now, specifically, what that means, um, there may be others. Like, okay, so and in that, I think we all have what I call a Fab Five. So there are five people that I feel that we just kind of gravitate toward. So my Fab Five: Art Blakey, Elvin Jones, Tony Williams, Billy Higgins, and Roy Haynes. Now, does that mean I don't identify with Max or Jimmy Cobb or Philly Joe? Not at all. What it does mean, though, whenever I would play, it always comes out like one of those five guys, right? Early on, when I was doing a lot of transcribing, and I would transcribe Philly Joe, and it would still sound like Elvin or Tony or one of those guys. Like, wait a minute. And so later, many years later, I remember having this conversation with Max, having this conversation with Billy Higgins and with Art, and they all basically said the same thing. He said, "Well, man, you gotta understand who you are a descendant of. In other words, sometimes it's not even about you studying someone in particular as much as it is that your musical soul is kind of connected more to certain people. People who've come before you.
Yeah.
So and when I hear all of those guys that I mentioned, it sometimes make me cry, but it always makes me smile. It makes me laugh because there's just so much depth there, and it's just
Yeah.
the five guys that I mentioned in particular. There's nothing that they play that I disagree with. Right? I just agree with everything. I mean, I love them for different reasons. For instance, when we talk about Elvin plays in three for me like nobody else, right?
Yeah.
Because playing in three, I like to say, is for grown folks. Not everybody can play in three, because a lot of people, you say play in three, they're like, oh, I got to play a waltz. Well, waltz is not bad, but the question is, how are you playing it? And the way that
Yeah.
Elvin would play in three. Okay, so if I can, I'll just do 30 seconds here, if that's
Please,
okay.
please, please.
So one of the things that I really love about the way that Elvin would play in three, first of all, Elvin always has a thing that people call a rolling triplet, right? Where it just felt like it was that triplet feel, but it always felt like it was moving forward. But Elvin's three is. And so the thing that I love about
Wow.
when he plays in three, so I grew up the youngest of five kids, just raised by my mother. And we grew up in church, right? And so the thing that when I hear Elvin, it just reminds me of church. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2,
Yeah.
3. And it just makes me happy. And it reminds me of my mother. So just the way he plays, man, it's just this thing of just, it always makes it feel like you're gonna fall off the chair and then you're not gonna fall off. I mean, the way that he
Yeah.
plays in three is just unbelievable. And then, of course, with Art,
Man.
the way that Art would play the shuffles and his press rolls, it's like,
Yeah.
to me, I ask students, I say, okay, we're going to study different drummers. And if you had to describe Art Blakey in less than 30 seconds, what would it be? And if they don't mention his press roll or his shuffle, then they haven't gotten it, right? when Art would play,
Wow.
it just sounded like, and I got a chance to see both of those gentlemen play in person a lot. And when Art would play that shuffle, it just felt like a truck was coming through the club. It was just so much force. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
Man.
but anyway, I know, and I apologize because that was kind of a long answer to that short question. But the thing
Man,
with Art and
I'm
Elvin
loving
is
that.
just that, to me, it Art. The thing that inspired me so much about Art was his willingness to take a chance on young musicians who were not quite ready. And
Yeah.
so I've always kind of built my career as a leader modeled after that. In terms of trying to find some younger
Yeah.
musicians to help them. Because, listen, I think about to when I was playing with Freddie Hubbard. When I joined the band, I was not ready, but he gave me a chance. And so we
Yeah,
look for
that's
potential.
amazing.
And so when I look at
Yeah.
Art and Elvin, between the Jazz Messengers and Elvin's Jazz Machine, that's what they did. You know.
Looking for potential. That is amazing. That's so generous. Are you telling that now? And I remembering that Emeto Pascoal, he used to do that, call
Mm.
young musicians to his band. He's
Yeah.
not prepared, but he can do that, and he wants to do that. That's all that we need.
And I'll
That
tell you, when you're the young one and you're the one that's not quite ready, sometimes you don't realize it. Give you an example. So when I first started playing with Freddie, shortly after that, man, there were nights where I felt like I could do anything, right?
wow,
And
yeah,
then I would play with some of my friends, some of my peers, and it didn't feel that way. And I was trying to figure out, well, man, what's wrong with them? And then I realized there was nothing wrong with them. The difference was is that Freddie was carrying me on his shoulders. So in other words, he made me sound better than I would without him, right? But
wow,
that's a sign of
wow,
a master, and that's what Elvin did. That's what Art Blakey did. That's what Tony Williams did, and so many others. That's what you're
wow.
doing. But when we get to a certain
Mm,
point in our career, we have that obligation to do that.
yeah, yeah, man.
We can't be selfish. We got to say, okay, I know I'd rather just call my friends, and of course we all have the option to do that. But the question is, who's going to reach back and help some of these young musicians like people helped us? You
Yeah,
know, so we have an
we,
obligation to do that.
we have to redo that to take it for them.
Yeah.
Great, man. I love it. This answer, man. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry it
Oh
was so long.
no, no, I'm loving that. Oh, I think we have to take more questions from people. I stopped in
Okay.
the El Morion, and yes, better environment, less flying. Joyce Glasgow is saying it's also better for the environment. Less flying, less driving, less burning of fossil fuels, less pollution, less contribute to global warming and respiration alimentals. Okay, thank you, Joyce.
Yeah, but Joyce,
And
you know what? You're right about that. But for us as musicians, we need that interaction. We need that energy from the audience to be able to play in
yeah,
front of people. And the streaming thing is great. I'm appreciative of it. But we need to be able to feel you all's presence.
yeah, man, and streaming is so good. We can do it for every word, but it's much stranger when you stop the music and you look to the camera and say, "Hello, is
Right,
there anybody here? Are you hearing
right,
me, man?"
right. Yeah,
It's
the
so
first streaming thing I did a few weeks ago, it felt so strange because you finished the song and there was no clapping, there was
no,
nobody sitting in the audience texting on the phone, and you look around. So after, and it was
yeah,
just one set. So I had to tell myself, okay, Carl, think of it like a recording session, right?
yeah,
Because after recording session, well, even in recording session, people they're clapping in the
yeah,
booth, but so that was
yeah, and
nothing.
say something, yeah,
Yeah, right, right.
yeah, yeah. Here nothing. Here, yeah. Are you here?
Yeah.
but that's right, but we have to play for people, and I think it's different any time that we play live is different with the audience,
Yeah.
because nothing is not better or worse with a different audience, but it's different If you
Yeah.
have more quiet audience, they supposed to taking more attention. They supposed to want a little less volume in the music. And I saw in Juilliard's, I saw Kenny Barron
Mm.
masterclass, and he was telling that because we be prepared to with set list to any kind of any kind of audience.
Yeah.
We have to be prepared to that. What is the vibe today? Is that vibe I can play different?
Yeah.
And we need that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, one more question here. Lael Medina is a great drummer from Brazil. Is here. I will send
Oh.
for my greetings for him. My greeting for me em português. Lael, beijo para você, Lael. Beijão para as pessoas que estão assistindo aqui em português. Sorry about my Portuguese. Uh, uh, one more question from Picking Stone. What advice would you give to guitarists and pianists to work collaborative with the drummer in the group? Side comping, rhythm from the snare. What other approach could we take to keep it grooving? What do
That's
you,
a great.
what do you think about my English, my accent?
It's great. Perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect. But
My,
that's a great question. And
yeah,
it's interesting because and we can also include in that a percussionist, right? And so why is that? Because if you think about a drummer and a pianist, what we're doing, if you're a right-handed drummer, what you're doing in the left hand on the snare drum is very similar to what a pianist is playing in the left hand, and that we're comping. And so
yeah,
part of the challenge, and a guitarist, once you throw the guitarist in, part of the challenge is negotiating that space. So
yeah,
knowing how to be able to not fill up all of the space so other people have some opportunity to be able to contribute. And I don't think there's one way to do it. I mean, I've been in situations where when there's a guitarist, the pianist will tell the guitarist, "Listen, when I play, you don't play." And so, okay. So, but I also like the texture of the guitar and the piano together. But everybody has to listen. And I think that's the thing that's really, really, really important. Because keep in mind, let's assume that you got a guitarist, a pianist, bass, drums, and say saxophone or whatever, and it's a saxophone solo. Well, we're still trying to support the soloist, the
yeah,
saxophonist, let's say, if they're playing at that time. And so
yeah,
knowing, particularly for guitar and for piano, should one lay out to create a different kind of vibe or different kind of texture? That's something that's really important. So
yeah,
I think listening is really the key, and to know what, because I always say right and wrong is relative to the situation. It's not a one size fit all. It's not like you do this every time. At least for me,
yeah,
some things will work in some situations and some things don't.
yeah,
It's a great
yeah.
question.
I agree with you, and I think it's the same for other kind of word. From Brazilian music is the same. We are always we have some very special particular question about that, especially from non-Brazilians, from non-Brazilians,
Mm.
about the a kind of clave like that, tak 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 tak, that starts on the beat one
Mm.
two one two, or a different one that starts on the up tempo as a syncopation. And people asking me how I know when I have to comp as one of different one. And the answer is that about the melody, about what the drummer is playing, what the keyboard playing is playing. We have to listen to that and try to be connected with that.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, oh.
It's all the same. It's all the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Colin van der Hoek. I'm sorry about my accent. I see he has a true turner behind him. Does he use it? Brought one at chose one Pacific, but haven't used it. I think
Yeah.
he's
So
talking about.
she's talking about this. This is a true tuner, and it's an amazing system where they have these different. You'll see the different numbers there where you can put it on the drum, and you put, they have this thing you put around it that'll help you tune the drum faster.
Yeah,
So
everyone
yeah,
in one, just
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So, I've used it a few times, and of course, I don't take it on the road. It's a little big to take on the road. But at the end of the day, and it's a great, great tool, at the end of the day, you still have to use your ears, you know, and learn how to tune to the room. And then, with tuning, it's about knowing the sound that you're trying to get. And then for me, it's just about trying to match what it is that I'm hearing. So,
Yeah.
but that True Tuner is great. It's great. And I would suggest getting if that's something you're interested in.
Oh, great. And thank you, Colin. And Joyce Glasgow say great. Wash hands. Richie says abraço. Lael Medina, wash hands. Lawrence, pretty birdie. Wonderful symbol set. Miguel Antonio de Vicenzo. Daniel Persuat. What would be the biggest difference and similarities between the words of Brazilian jazz music and jazz? Between the words of Brazilian music and jazz. Could you see that?
Yes, I know Daniel. So I think you should, Edu. I think you should answer this question because I know Daniel. He studied with me before, so I think he and I talked about you in lessons before. So I think it would be great for him to hear
Oh,
from you.
oh. So, um, of course, I think the difference between the music for any place is our country or instruments. The instruments is different, the people is different, the life is different, and the accent is different. But I think the music we have a so connected music that came from the same place from Africa. The rhythm came from
Mm-hmm.
the same place, and we have a different accent to do that. If you take this club, that you use a lot here in
Mm-hmm.
samba, like that, just as that, we can play samba like that. You can play frevo. And even the American music, we have that. Of course, I'm sorry about try to play a kind of second line, but
Yeah,
it's the
no,
same
that was
club.
happening.
If
Yeah.
if you take from Cuba, it came from here. Came from Africa, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same roots.
Yep.
And when we think about, of course, the culture is different, and in America you have a culture of jazz, of standards of jazz, but we have a lot of standards of Brazilian music too, trying with the same harmonic conception. I don't know if there is a lot of difference that I can say. That different? Is different. The accent is different. The subdivision is different. But it's music. We can
Yep.
we can share it. I don't know
But it
what do you
also
think.
it also speaks to the importance of the triplet and different
Yeah,
variations of the triplet. Like when you were playing the bass drum there, you were playing what I felt was the dotted quarter note. You know, boom, 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 right? But then
yeah,
underneath it, we feel that diddly 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 diddly, and then inside of that, the 12/8.
yeah. Ooh,
You know, so
yeah,
but it all like you said. I'm just repeating what you said. It all comes from the same place. You know.
yeah, yeah. That
But see, I
was
got a question for you. I got a question for you, Edu, because I know there's some drummers on here who would love to hear this from
oh,
you. Because
please.
some of them, like Daniel, I've spoken with him about it, and I told him he should watch some of your YouTube videos. But I want them to hear directly from you, man. What did you
Oh,
do to get that right hand together?
the right hand.
Your right
Um,
hand plays so
yeah.
fast. Like what? How did
Uh,
you get that together?
yeah, that is some particular thing from the Brazilian drummers, I think, because we are always trying to imitate some instruments as a do you know pandero? The
Yep.
tiki tiki
Mm-hmm.
tiki tiki tiki. We are trying to imitate that here, and we have the to do that with the right hand. We have to do that from anyway. We have to can do that. So some drummers try to do it with a technique skills like I use a lot of this my fingers
Yep.
or my wrist, and I used to do a mixing about them. I have the wrist for the accent,
Yep.
or sometimes I play without the accent. But for me, it's a kind of obsession to try to play the pandero pattern in the hi-hat. Even if I play in Baião, I have to do the same, the 60 note here. So for us, I think it's a kind of obsession to try to imitate the pandero and triangle in the hi-hat. But I'm just trying to use my wrists and my finger. And I have to mix at that. Sometimes I play without accent. Sometimes I put the accent on the beat. Sometimes I put the accent with the left hand. And sometimes I split this accent between the left, the hi-hat and the cross sticking like that. But for
killer.
Brazilian drummers,
That's great.
oh, thank you, brother. It's a kind
man.
of obsession to try to imitate the patterns of pandero. I remember my uncle, he's a drummer,
Yeah.
and we played together in my father's band. And I remember that when it starts the samba group of music, the samba part of music, and he start to do that, he start to be tired and he start to try some movement, but he never stops to do that. It was a kind of, I have to do that.
Wow. Wow.
Oh,
But see, I want to point out something, and so play that groove you were playing again, the first,
okay.
like the basic samba groove you were playing again.
Okay. Like that.
See,
This one?
every time, every single time I hear you play that, the thing, in addition to the right hand, the thing that I pay attention to is that bass drum. Because talking about Elvin, it reminds me of Elvin because it feels like it's just a little bit pulling, not dragging, but just a little bit. So instead of it being boom da don't but don't, it's like boom bo don't bo don't bo don't bo don't bo don't bo don't. It's just
Yeah.
a little bit,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
just like that's the thing that creates that dance.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. It's not a kind of quantized. It's not
Right,
the real. Yeah,
right.
and I think it's the same with your music, with the height symbol and between that, because it's a kind of three against the two.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
same sometimes with the hi hat like that. And it's I never thought about that. I never thought about do it with the bass drum, but it's natural,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, it's so natural. Yeah.
Well, but see, this goes back to what we were talking about before about the importance of hearing, spending time listening to the music and understanding the language and the culture. I just don't, I could be wrong, right? But I just don't think it's possible to really understand this music if you've never listened to the music or if you never check out the culture. It's just it's not a textbook kind of music where you can just write it out and say, okay, this is how I play it, and it's gonna feel the same. It's not possible,
Yeah, I
you
think
know.
for any language, even if I practice my English speaking here, but I never listen you talking, I
Right.
never talk with any people that speaks English. It's hard to understand that. You have to you know the words, you know the grammatical, but you can recognize what is really.
Right.
I think
Exactly.
that
You
I
know,
agree with you.
I use the analogy when we talk about music and language. You know, it's you know, I've always been fascinated by Japanese culture and by the language. And the first person who started me speaking Japanese is Kenny Garrett. So Kenny's fluent, right? I'm not even close
He's
to fluent, but
fluent.
he's fluent, yeah. And can read it and write it and everything. It's incredible. And
Wow.
but I'll never forget when he first started trying to teach me. He said we were, he would leave me messages in Japanese and then he would translate it and then okay. So anyway, then we started playing together with Freddie. So he said, "Carl, you just gotta go up to people and just say hello in Japanese." I said, "Well, how do you say hello?" He said, "Well, it's a lot of different ways, but one way is you say konnichiwa." And so I couldn't hear it because it sounded so fast. And so we were in a mall. We were in Chicago. I'll never forget it.
Uh-huh.
And he said, okay, those people there, just go up and just start speaking. So I walked up to him and I said, konnichiwa. And they looked at me like, what is wrong with this guy? And I said it again. And they said, look, I'm from India. I don't know what you're talking about. But if they weren't black or white, I just was speaking Japanese, right? And so as I started to go to Japan more, I would hear it more and I could see it. And it's like being in that environment, it became easier for me to speak it. But if I'm here in New
Yeah.
York and I'm talking to my friends who are not Japanese, you know, your conversation skills start to diminish, right?
Yeah.
But music is the
Yeah.
same way. You got to hear it. You got to be in that environment to really understand it.
And of course, what you hear in all your life makes difference.
Right.
I'm so influenced about things that I listened in my infance, in my little child, my
Yep.
infant. Sometimes was just, I don't know, but some special recordings that I remember, and some special things that I remember from my uncle playing. My
Mm.
uncle, I used to play with my uncle when I was 15 to 17, just two
Mm.
years. But
Wow.
our of weekend, I saw him playing for 5 hours a day.
Mm.
And sometimes, and I never more I never more watching him playing from these times.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe 13 years without hearing him playing. But sometimes when I sit in drum set, I play some of his licks, his
Yep.
phrase, and
You
what's in
can't
my
help
mind.
it. Yeah. That's a part of who you
Yeah,
are. Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And and talking about the language, my mother-in-law
Yep.
is Argentina. Is from Argentina, and in my child, I always get with her family, and
Yep.
listening a lot of Spanish from Argentina, and
Mm.
my Spanish has the accent from Argentina. When I go to Spain, people say, "Are you Argentina?" I said, "No, I am from Brazil," but you speak because the accent is here.
Right.
It's something
Right.
that influenced me.
Right.
Oh,
Yep.
hey, Daniel, thank you for the question. And Alan, Mr. Carl, please, let's gonna see just one more, a few questions, because we are more than 1 hour talking here, just
Oh,
to say
okay.
hello to people. Um, what's your favorite Art Blakey album?
Boy, it's hard.
Can I say? Can I answer?
Yes.
My favorite. For me, it's not an album. For me, it's just one track that I love from Art Blakey. That I think the name is Chicken Dumpings.
Oh, chicken and dumplings. Yeah, yeah,
Boom, boom, man. Is
yeah,
this is the same? It's groovy. It's dancing. It's just
yep,
dancing.
yep,
And now,
yep.
you,
Well, it's
Chris.
not one record, but I mean, if I had to narrow it down, probably Buhana's Delight or Free for All. But it's kind of hard because Moanin' is pretty incredible too. You can't go wrong with an Art Blakey. So it's just. But I'll tell you one record I've been listening to a lot with him is not his record. It's a Hank Mobley record called Soul Station.
Soul
And there's
Station.
Soul Stations, Hank Mobley, and but I mean, Art. There's a tune on there called Remember, where the A section is in two, but Art is playing quarter notes on the ride cymbal,
Wow.
and everybody else is playing in two. And then in the A section, he goes to four, to the ding a ding on the ride cymbal. And just the shift in the weight of the beat is just so incredible. Something as simple as that, man, it's just really incredible.
Man, he's incredible. I'm not so expert in Matt Blakey, but I heard a lot. I have. Did you meet Daniel Alcantara, the trumpet player?
Who
He's from
was it?
MESP too. I think Daniel Alcantara. I think he didn't went to Juilliard's, uh, but sometime maybe you met him in Brazil when you came here to MESP.
Okay, okay.
But he showed me all of Art Blakey stuff, Art Blakey recordings, and that one recording that I love that was his recording for Evidence from Monk.
Oh
That
yeah,
is just the kicks, pam, pam, pam. Man, that's amazing. And
yeah.
on B, he plays the tempo. I love that.
But see, one of the things that's
Oh,
so incredible about Art, and I could talk about Art all day, but is the way that he would orchestrate. Because Art
mm-hmm,
played in a small group like it was a condensed big band. And I
mm-hmm,
remember Ray Brown told me that was because at 16, Art used to play with Billy Eckstine's big band. And so even
mm-hmm.
up until the day Art died, you could ask him about any of those tunes, and he knew everybody's part in the band. You know,
Wow.
and the
Yeah.
way that Art would play, he had this uncanny ability to hear everything going on around him. One of the things I talk about with students all the time is that is the ability you want to develop that ability to make it sound like a band as opposed to you just jamming. And the way that
Yeah.
happens quite often is through orchestration and dynamics, and Art was a master of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Great. Man. Yeah. And it's sometimes it's hard for a student or even for professionals if you are not so comfortable with something that you're playing to hear everything, but you never can lose anything that is going in the music. You have to get everything. You have to listen everything.
Right, right.
That's great.
So, Edu, there's a
Oh,
question here from a friend of mine, but I would like for you to address this because I see him in lessons every week. His name is Dan Cole.
please.
He's a law
Okay.
professor in Indiana, but he says, Carl, can you talk about the different quarter note feels of different great drummers? But I would like for you to answer that because I can answer that with him anytime.
Uh, can you talk about the different quarter note feels of different great drummers? Man, for me, I just can say I'm not can I'm not can talk about the American drummers. I feel the difference between Elvin, between Art Blakey, between Tony, but I can explain that. I can say what they are doing, but I'm feeling. I can't feel that. I feel Elvin so organic with that, and but I can explain that. I don't know. I think I can explain about the Brazilian 16 notes of drummers. There is a lot of difference, but for the jazz musicians, I can say I can recognize Philly Joy Jones playing. I can recognize Max playing and Elvin and
But
Tony
how would
even,
how would
but
you recognize it with Brazilian drummers? How would you recognize it?
uh, I think for me, recognizing the drummer or the musician is a kind of voice. If you call me, even we don't talk for a long time,
Yeah.
when you said Edu, I say, Mr. Carl, how are you? Because I
Yeah, yeah,
recognize
yeah.
your voice. And even if you can recognize with the sound, with the words that you use, it's the phrase that we can recognize. But there is a lot of difference because there is Celso de Almeida is a great drummer. He used to play the 16 notes with the accent on tempo. And is a little more precise with the 16 notes. And if you hear Erivelton Silva, that was the different one. He plays more with no clave on the snare and more splitting the clave. And Paulo Braga is a shame. It's a shame that we can use the brush here, but Paulo Braga, you can hear that.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Paulo Braga used to use the. Paulo Braga is not the piano player; it's the drummer that plays
Yeah.
with Jobim. That he used to play with this movement, with this sound of left hand. If you take Toninho Pinheiro, he plays with this movement. It's a little bit drier. And I don't know how to. Of course, if you take Edson Machado, he plays too much more open, like that, with a kind of broken 60 note here. And there's a different. It's a different. If you take Ayrton plays a lot of that. Ayrton, you know Ayrton Moreira?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Ayrton, I think, is a transition because before Ayrton, people used to play the samba like that, like imitating the escola de samba. Or, and Edson Machado take it out and put the samba from here. And Ayrton, for me, makes the balance between that two schools. He does that. And have the both together. I don't. That is my way to recognize this drummer. You have to listen them, and it's for me it's the same to recognize the voice, the
Right.
voice on the phone.
Now, so here's my question. Did you do a series, and I should know this, did you do a series for Open Studio? Did you
Yeah.
do a master class?
I have a course, a
Yeah.
pre-recorded course in Open Studio. Yes, I did it. I did
Yeah,
that.
so for all of you guys, Dan and Daniel and all everybody, you guys should check it out. I need to check it out too. But I mean it's
Oh,
no, 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 no. Because here's the beautiful thing about music. You can always learn. And I noticed someone posted something up about Dizzy, and that was one of the things that Dizzy used to talk about. I remember you finish a gig, come off the bandstand, with Dizzy, and I remember once saying, I said, man, Dizzy, that was unbelievable. He said, there's another level. I'm like, what? He said, well, thank you, but for the compliment, he said, but there's another level. And I'm like, well, what do you mean there's another level? He said, it can always be better. And I was like, wow. This is Dizzy. I mean, what do you say to
yeah,
that? You
yeah,
talk about humbling. It's like, okay,
yeah,
back to the drawing board,
yeah,
So,
yeah. Great, great.
so Open
Eh,
Studio says give 50% off all drum courses in the description below, including
Oh,
Edu's course, Brazilian Jazz Drumming.
oh,
Yes.
thank you for this, for this. And you, what you did with the Open Studio? You told me that you did something with Christian McBride.
Yeah, well, Christian has a course for bass, and then he did another part of the course, and so I joined him on this last one, just talking about the relationship between bass and drum. So he was gracious enough to he and Peter and everyone to ask me to join. So that was so much fun, and I
Oh,
think that's coming out soon. I'm not sure they'll be able to tell you when it comes out, but and then I'm hoping to do something for them. We've been talking about some stuff, so hopefully we'll get that happening soon.
oh man, that is will be amazing. I'm waiting for that now. I'm
No,
just
please.
waiting.
You can watch some
Hey,
cartoons. You'll be okay.
no man, I'm waiting for that. Mr. Carl, I think
Yes.
we are a long time here. We are close to finish. I want to say thank you for everybody that came here, and we can answer all the questions. But guys, thank you for the question. Joyce, Pickingstone, Richie. Richie is asking about the electronic drum model. Is
Yes.
Holland TD KV27. No, TD27 KV.
Roland.
Roland, yes, from
Ah.
Holland. V drums, V drums.
Yeah.
Bruno de César, Joyce, Colin, Pique, Colin, gente. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Carl, and thank you for Peter Martin, Dan, Adam, Rachel, Theo, people that is in the backstage here. Thank you so much. And Mr. Carl, I have to
Edu, I
say,
love you, man. I love you.
I,
I
I
absolutely
love you.
miss you, and
Oh man,
we're gonna have to connect so we can talk again. I hope I can get a chance to see you soon.
yeah, me too, me too. I have to say thank you one more time to being here and to make this conversation. Okay,
The pleasure's
and
all mine.
I hope to see you again soon.
Soon.
I hope
Absolutely.
soon with the vaccine, or in Brooklyn or here in São Paulo, but soon.
Yes.
Or maybe in Japan, you can teach me Japanese because I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah, yeah.
anything. Okay,
Dajo. Okay.
brother,
Love you. All right. Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Love you.
Okay. Love you too. Thank you, guys.
Ciao. Thank
All
you,
right.
guys. Thank you
Bye
so
bye.
much. All right. Bye, 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 bye.
Bye bye.